So we're starting to actually get some news about the RTX 5090 and the 5080. There have been some rumors lately as to when they may be coming out, and maybe even a couple things to do with pricing. First, let's examine where we are right now. The Nvidia Rtx Super Series came out earlier this year in January. Of course, you have the highest end, which is the 4080 Super at $999. That one was actually sold out for a while. A lot of people couldn't get it at first, and now it seems like it's a little bit better, but you could see there's still some demand there because in lieu of getting a 4090, which is literally twice the price right now, you're still getting a pretty good GPU. I mean, 16 gigabytes of VRAM, and the performance, although it's not much better than the 4080 that it replaces, still at $999, it's not really that bad of a deal. Obviously, it comes very late into the life cycle of RTX 4000, which is going to be a bit of a problem when we talk about RTX 5000. And now let's hear a word from our sponsor, VIP-CDKdeals.com, a Windows Pro CD key. Add to cart, you put in code CC20. This will also work on Windows 11. You want to go into your settings in Windows, change and adjust your CD key, click activate, and now let's go back to the video. And then obviously you have the other GPUs in the Super lineup, 4070 Ti Super, which has a decent upgrade at 16 gigabytes of VRAM. At least that's going to be a little bit more future-proof. And then staying at $799 is always pretty reasonable as well. And then obviously the 4070 Super, which has been probably the most popular of the three, at $599. It's definitely giving you really good performance for that price. Still 12 gigabytes of VRAM. I guess it's okay for 1440p. And in terms of rasterization, this GPU is getting pretty close to the old 4070 Ti, which of course was $799. So for $599, you really can't complain too much. It's not terrible. But all of these GPUs are going to experience a shift in not only how they're perceived with their price, but also their performance. So what's going on with the RTX 50 series? There have been some leaks and murmurs in the media recently that the AIB partners are kind of told to expect that the 5090 and the 5080 will be released at the end of this year, sometime at the end of 2024. There's no exact date given, but I'm sure if you kind of put pieces together, you see what big events may be happening towards the end of the year, you could kind of surmise where Nvidia might announce a consumer grade GPU like the RTX 50 series, and around where it may come out. Sometimes it may come out August, September, in that time frame. It's going to be towards the end of the year. Now, it looks like Nvidia is probably going to be doing what it usually does with the recent GPU releases. They're going to put out the fastest GPUs first. Obviously, it's not always exactly like that. If you really want to talk about details, the 3090 Ti definitely came out after everything else in the RTX 3000, for example. But usually they'll start with the 3080, 3090 first. My main point is that they're not releasing a 3070, 5070, for example, first. Those are going to come after. You're going to get the 5090 and the 5080 first, much like when the 4090 came out. That was one of the early GPUs along with the 4080. And then later you got the 4070 and 4060 Ti and the mid-range lower end GPUs, etc. So that makes sense. They want to put their best foot forward. And obviously it still leaves a little room way down the line if they want to release a 5090 Ti or something like that. If they want to have one more that's going to be ultra powerful. It's interesting. This generation, they didn't really do anything above the 4090. I guess the 4090 is already probably ridiculously powerful enough that they figured 4080 Super, more than enough. 4090 Super probably wouldn't have made too much sense. They're not going to put more VRAM into it. And remember, Nvidia is getting a lot of restrictions on these GPUs in terms of AI going into China. The US government banned a lot of these GPUs, especially the data center GPUs that are too powerful. And believe it or not, the 4090 fit into that category where it was banned as well. That's why Nvidia released the 4090D, which is a little bit of a cut down 4090 meant specifically for the Chinese market. That GPU, some say they can be overclocked to achieve performance similar to a full 4090. But anyway, on paper at least, and the way it comes out of the box, Nvidia had to reduce the specs for that GPU so it could be acceptable into the Chinese market. That's going to be an area where the 5090 and 5080 are going to be interesting. It's not only going to be gamers that are going after this GPU. The AI craze is so big right now that a lot of these companies, especially in China, they're taking consumer grade GPUs like 4090s especially, and they're turning them into AI data center GPUs. In some cases, they take off like the shroud and they put them in like blower style, so that way they can stack them up in like a data center, almost like a mining farm, if you will, but a data center farm to do, large language models and whatever. Obviously, you would think large corporations will get their hands on, the high-end data center GPUs, but in China, if you can't get those fast GPUs and they're sold out everywhere, you're going to go at least to the next best thing. I mean, it's not the most powerful or efficient GPU compared to some of these, AI data center GPUs like the H100 and the new GPUs coming out for Blackwell for Nvidia, but at least for smaller operations, or just if you're going to throw in like dozens and hundreds of them, it seems to do the job. And I have a feeling that the 5080 and 5090 are both going to fall sort of into that category where they're going to be in demand, not just from gamers, but also from these type of data center farms. We think that maybe the 5090 is going to have some pretty crazy specs. Obviously, for gaming, they're talking about it being like 60 to 70% better than a 4090. It's like that's going to make even a 1440p monitor like outdated, because that's going to like destroy a 1440p monitor. Even a 4090 already maxes out a 1440p monitor in a lot of cases. When you talk about ray tracing and path tracing, sure, it gets a little bit trickier, but 4K, the 4090 does really well in 4K. Imagine a 5090. Now we're talking about 8K territory. If those monitors start coming out, maybe ultra wides that are higher resolution than 4K or nearing 8K, I think a 5090 is going to be incredible. Not to mention it's going to probably max out, 4K, even with ray tracing in a lot of games, 144 hertz, 240 hertz. It's going to get pretty crazy. Also, the memory specs are going to be probably really, really impressive. GDDR7 upgraded from the 6X. Supposedly, obviously, it's going to be faster. It's also going to be thermally more manageable. GDDR6X can run pretty hot, as a lot of like 3090 owners will know, 3080 owners will know, especially in those, founder editions. The fans will kick up if you're using the VRAM heavily. A lot of people have to change thermal paste and things like that. So 5090, more efficient, VRAM, more powerful VRAM, still going to be 24 gigabytes, but it's going to be very, very fast. And obviously, that's going to be attractive to gamers immediately, because you're going to be able to do high resolution, high textures, ray tracing, path tracing, 4K, probably 8K, but it's probably going to be even more attractive to people who want to use it in data centers. If the 4090 is already a very capable GPU in that sector, imagine a 5090. They're going to sell very, very fast. And that's where we get to the other point that's going around as well. They want to increase the price, the average price per unit, as they call it, in these new NVIDIA GPUs. If the demand is really high, you can bet a 5090 is going to be very expensive. Now, in the US market, we saw even some price cuts. I mean, the 4080 Super went down to $999. If it was really that heavily in demand, it would have been $1,200, just like the original 4080. But gamers haven't been buying too many GPUs. But maybe the 5090 is an exception. Just like the 4090 was sold out for a long time, a lot of people went after it to buy it. It's possible, combined with AI and combined with the fact that the 5090 is going to be really powerful, people are going to want to buy it. If you're a gamer, a content creator, 3D graphics artist, whatever, you're going to want that extraordinarily powerful GPU. So I don't know what they're going to release it at. It could be that the MSRP is $1,599 like the 4090, but then the board partners, they're going to raise those prices and give you custom coolers, just like, let's say, like the Asus Strix and things like that, where they're going to be well over $2,000. And then obviously, if these GPUs sell out really fast, for whatever reason, gamers or data centers, AI, we're going to see the scalpers come back on the secondary market once again. We saw that pretty heavily with the 4090 actually. There were a lot of scalped 4090s. They were going for hundreds of dollars over MSRP, and that's when people weren't even buying too many other GPUs. The 4090 seemed to be the one that everybody wanted. So 5090, we could have the same thing. And if that 5080 is similar in performance or better than the 4090 now, but it's a lot cheaper, that's also going to be a pretty high-end demand product. Looking at the 4080 Super, that one seems to have at least sold in a lot of cases when it came out. I'm not sure if Nvidia made too many of them, but definitely it wasn't the easiest GPU to find, so you know they were definitely moving. And then obviously the new generation is going to put, downward pressure on the price of stuff like the 4070 Super and the AMD stuff as well. AMD 7900 XTX, that's going to go down dramatically by the end of the year when the new stuff comes out, because even the 4090 is probably going to be pushing closer to that. I don't even want to speculate on the price of a 4090, because if AI starts to become strong, it could stay pretty high for a long time. But 4080s and stuff, they're going to be coming down in price as time goes on and as the new GPUs come out. And that's only going to make the AMD prices lower, as well as the mid-range Nvidia stuff. So very interesting stuff to watch out for. I think by the end of the year, the GPU market's going to be very different than it is now. We're going to have some great deals on like the current generation stuff, and then some pretty insane high performance GPUs from Nvidia. And then the question will be, is AMD going to have anything to respond to that high end, or at least the mid to high end? They haven't released anything new in that sector really for a while, ever since the 7900 XTX. So let's see what happens. Remember to subscribe. Let me know what you think down below, and I'll see you guys on the next video.